Hello everybody, it's Joben, here with another ASMR video for you. This one is going to be a fun one for me. Well, they're all fun for me, but I am making this video as a tier list for Helldivers 2, and I'll be ranking all the primaries and secondaries and grenades in Helldivers 2. This tier list is going to be based on the highest level difficulty in the game, which is level 10, Super Helldive. And we're going to be basing this off of the Automatons. As you know, I'm sure if you've played this game, the Automatons and the Terminids are completely different, and thus we need to approach each with a different strategy. They both have their different problems to be solved. And so a separate tier list for the different enemies you face is appropriate, in my opinion. I'm going to explain the tiers. S tier is for weapons that, and of course this is, in my opinion, are maybe a bit overpowered or overtuned, and they're always a good pick versus the Automatons, and honestly, personally, are less fun for me because they can handle just about everything or do something way too well. And if you're just starting on Super Helldive, or you're unsure about one of these S tier weapons, just choose it, and you can't go wrong with this weapon. A tier are for the solid choices. There's not too many situations in which these guns or grenades are bad at, but there are some problems that it can't solve. B tier is for the decent choices, average. There's going to be better choices than this, aka A tier and S tier. But if you bring a B tier weapon, you're probably going to have a lot of fun, and you're going to be switching out your weapons and approaching problems with all the tools at your disposal, which to me makes the game fun. C tier weapons are weapons that you really shouldn't be taking. Basically, it might solve a niche problem, but in general, not a great pick. And then D tier, let's get rid of D tier, in fact. And let's get rid of E tier. So we're going to have F tier. And F tier is just going to be the weapons that you should never take no matter what. And if you do, it's a meme choice, or you're really just trying to make things harder on yourself, because these guns are pretty bad against the bots. Okay, so let's get started. The first weapon we have is the Liberator. The Liberator is really good against, well, I don't say it's really good. It's decent against the bots. I had to stop myself right there. It does have quite a bit of ammo. It has a good scope on it. The recoil and the handling are pretty good for an assault rifle. However, it does not have medium pen, it just has light penetration. Just a good all-around gun. There are better choices though. Again, it doesn't have medium penetration. So you're really going to have to aim for weak spots, and some enemies you are just going to generally have a hard time with, and especially in level 10, there's going to be a lot of Devastators, which have medium armor, and if you want to snipe with this, which is probably, the easiest way to use this gun effectively, is those headshots. There are better weapons for that. And we'll get into those in a minute. But not bad. It could take care of chaff. And if you're shooting the torsos of the Devastators, which easier said than done as they're shooting rockets and lasers at you, then not a bad choice. We're going to put it in B tier. You're probably not surprised. Liberator Penetrator. Like the Liberator, has a great scope. The main difference is it has medium penetrating rounds, and other than that, it's almost the same as the Liberator, and for that reason alone, it's going to go into A tier. The biggest threat in level 10 automatons, in my opinion, are actually reinforced scout striders, which at this point in time don't give you any warning when they're going to shoot their rockets at you, and the rockets can one-shot you. And this Space Liberator can't hurt them at all. But if you had medium armor pen, shoot them in the pelvis or the legs, and you're good to go. It is a pretty good sniper. You could change it to single fire and pop heads to clear out chaff from a distance. Very accurate, medium penetrating, pretty decent gun, and it's fun to use. But as we'll see later, there are actually better guns than this. Liberator Concussive. What do I say about this gun? Its rate of fire and damage are terrible. Now, its big thing is the concussive rounds, which do really great for staggering. However, good luck staggering a bunch of Devastators, and you can't stagger a reinforced scout strider because this does not have medium penetration. Its biggest use is actually against berserkers. When you have a line of berserkers, you could hold them off basically indefinitely with the huge drum magazine. But it's going to be really hard for you to kill them, and in my opinion, this is just a C tier pick. You really don't want to be taking this gun. It's not great in level 10. Liberator Carbine. This is basically the Liberator, except it shoots faster. It does have great time to kill for light armored enemies. It does not have medium armor pen, and to me, medium armor pen is amazing against the bots. And for this reason, it's going to go after... Actually, let's put it here. It's not as good as the base Liberator because you can't change the scope, so you can't really snipe with it. The handling is great, the reload speed is great, but with the versus Devastators, you're going to want to hit the head, and this really, it just can't do it. The Tenderizer. This does not have medium pen, but it has a great scope. It has really good damage. You're going to be wanting to use this from a distance and just one or two tapping Devastators with this gun. It could also take out chaff and berserkers pretty well, but since there's no medium armor pen on this, you're going to have a hard time versus reinforced scout striders and hulks as well. Well, actually, it's pretty decent against hulks. I take that back if you get behind them. So I'm going to put this... It is actually better than the Liberator for sniping Devastators and chaff, but it's not as good as the Liberator Penetrator because you can't take down reinforced scout striders with it. And for that reason, we're going to put an A tier, but after the Lib Pen. The Adjudicator. I love this gun. They have done nothing but buff this gun since they introduced it, and it just gets better and better. And I hope they actually stop because it's in a really good state right now. I don't feel like it's overpowered. It does great damage, and it has medium armor penetration. And it has a pretty good magazine size, has great scope. Its main drawback is, well, it has two main drawbacks: the reload speed and the handling. The handling, it's actually a pretty heavy gun compared to these other options here. You'll see that your aim doesn't catch up to your camera as fast as the other assault rifles. And that's good. I think that really balances this gun. But great damage, medium armor penetration, great scope. A tier in front of the Liberator Penetrator. The Constitution. You know, in level 10 Helldive, if you're taking this gun, you are asking for a hard time. I will say it's pros. You can one-shot Devastators with it if you have good aim. But the reload is pretty slow, although it is rounds reload, but it is pretty slow. The fire rate is really slow. You have 5 rounds per magazine, and I mean, I don't want them to buff this gun. I think this is a meme choice, and it's great to cosplay, and it's great to take in lower difficulty missions. If you're helping out newbies, just to run around and shoot just like people of old Earth. But for level 10, you know, this is just a bad choice, and so we're going to put this in F tier, as much as I do really enjoy using this gun. The Diligence. They recently buffed this gun so that it could one-shot Devastators in the head. And while before I probably would have put this gun in B or C tier, I will now put this gun in A tier just because of that. It has great damage, great magazine size, it has a great scope. It is not medium armor penetrating, but it does a lot of damage, and if you hit the light armor on a Devastator in the pelvis or the legs or the backpack, you will eventually destroy them. So we're going to put this in A tier, but we're going to put it above, let's put it above the Tenderizer. Well, these are about the same, honestly, but it's not quite as good as the medium armor assault rifles, but it is a good gun. The Diligence Counter Sniper is the Diligence's medium armor penetrating cousin, and it does outperform versus the bots. The main drawback, two main drawbacks of this gun: worse handling, and it has less ammo. So you're really going to need to make your shots count, but I ran the Diligence Counter Sniper versus the bots for such a long time after they buffed it, the initial buff. And it is so good, and it is such a fun gun to just be a sniper, long range sniper. It has a really long range scope, 200 meters, I believe. And all around great gun, and I'm going to put it in A tier. I don't think it's overpowered, because it's really bad for enemies that are up close. And you're going to want to use a sidearm or an assault weapon for enemies up close, but for medium to long range, this gun is amazing. And we're going to put it right here behind the Adjudicator. The Knight. I actually don't have the Super Citizen Edition, so I can't speak to how good this gun is against the Automatons in level 10. I will say, just knowing its stats, and the fact that it's a one-handed gun that you can use with the ballistic shield. It has a great fire rate and pretty good damage. So we're going to put this in B tier. And we're going to put it right here next to the Liberator. Again, the fact that you could run this gun and shoot it with the ballistic shield makes it a pretty solid choice. Now, feel free to disagree, because again, well, you could disagree anytime you want. Please disagree and let me know in the comments about anything I say. But for this one, again, I've never used it. I just know its stats and its attributes. The Holt SMG, they just released this in the newest War Bond. I have used it against the Automatons in level 10, and I have to say, it's pretty good. It is a medium armored penetrating SMG, although I hesitate to call it an SMG because it's actually a two-handed gun. It has an okay magazine size, and the handling is really good. And I want to compare this. I think it's a direct comparison to the Adjudicator. The scope is non-changeable, so it's just a close range weapon. The way it differs from the Adjudicator is basically the bullet spread. If you try to hit something medium to long range, it's unlikely to hit, as the bullet spread is pretty bad. The recoil, I believe, is a little bit worse, but it is still a solid gun, especially for close range engagements. The handling is much better than the Adjudicator, so if you feel like you're being overrun, this SMG is going to be better at handling your close range firefights. To me, this gun sits right here behind the counter sniper. The Defender. This is a decent gun versus the bots. You can run this with the ballistic shield, just like the Knight SMG. To me, it's a direct comparison to the Liberator. It has comparable DPS. Its main difference is that it's one-handed, and you could run this with the ballistic shield. And for that reason, we're going to put it in front of the Liberator. In fact, I'm going to put the Liberator behind the two SMGs, just for the fact that they're both one-handed. The Pummeler, it has less DPS than the Defender, and I want to directly compare this to the Defender. It has less DPS, but it has more stagger, and I don't think that's terribly important when you're fighting the Automatons. The one exception being versus Berserkers. But if you're running this SMG versus the Defender SMG with the ballistic shield, I believe you're going to get much more value out of the actual Defender SMG and not the Pummeler. But this does have its uses. Again, it shines more against Berserkers, as it has better stagger. I'm going to go ahead and put this behind the Knight. The Punisher. The Punisher, honestly, great weapon versus the bots. It's light armor penetrating, but if you spam shoot a Devastator's head, you will eventually get enough shots to kill it. And if you shoot its back or its torso or legs, you are going to do pretty good damage, and the time to kill is pretty good. It has great ammo economy, great handling. This is a pretty solid choice for your close range firefights, as the damage is so big and the burst damage is so much. And we're going to go ahead and put this in A tier. But where in A tier? I'm going to go and put this behind the Liberator Penetrator. But some of these can be rearranged. The Slugger. I honestly feel like Arrowhead has forgotten this weapon exists. They did nerf it a little while back, and I believe they buffed it again, but they haven't touched it in a while. It is medium armor penetrating, but in a world where you have the Adjudicator, the Halt, the Liberator Penetrator, all for pretty close range options, at least okay for close range, and then you have this gun, which is basically a close range gun. You can snipe with it, but again, it's hard with the scope. The range is not great. I believe they've just forgotten about this weapon, and I'm going to put this in C tier. But I'm going to put it above these two. I believe the Slugger, I think it just needs some sort of buff. What kind of buff? I don't know. Maybe a damage buff. Maybe give it another layer of armor penetration, but that actually might be broken now that I'm thinking about it, so maybe not. But not a great gun. DPS isn't great. Moving on to the Halt. I love this shotgun versus the bugs. Versus the bots, it's pretty good. You can actually stagger multiple Devastators at a time with the stun rounds, or stun them with the stun rounds, and that is pretty useful. And the medium armor penetrating rounds are pretty good. They're pretty good. You can take down reinforced Scout Striders with it, although you're going to have to get pretty close or else you're going to waste a lot of bullets. The mag sizes are pretty small, but being able to switch in between two barrels is pretty good. It's a great utility pick. I'm going to put this in A tier, and I'm going to put it right behind the Liberator Penetrator. Good pick, good solid gun, especially if you like to be more of a support role on your team. The Cookout, excellent gun. Really not much to be said. It's a direct comparison to the Punisher, except it lights them on fire and does slightly less damage, but honestly, the damage over time more than makes up for the slight decrease in damage. Plenty of ammo. You're going to be taking down Devastators and Berserkers with this thing. Great stagger. Great close range option. I'm going to go and put this above the Halt. And you could kind of see my shotgun biases. I like long range weapons versus the bots versus close range weapons. That's my personal bias, but feel free to, in your head, rearrange any of the guns in these tiers. This gun. This is the Punisher. Or is this... I forget what this gun is called. But it's not great. It's also not bad either. It's so funny. It's been... Honestly, I don't even remember the last time I used this gun versus the bots. It probably was before level 10 came out, so honestly, my opinion on this one's going to be a little shaky. I don't even know its name. I forgot it exists. But I do know that it used to be an amazing gun, and then they nerfed it, and it really hasn't been the same since, even though they buffed it not too long ago. I don't see anyone using this. Maybe I need to give it a shot. on level 10, but I'm going to go ahead and be safe and put this in B tier. The spray and pray. Terrible option versus bots. You really don't want to be using this gun. It's really good versus the bugs, but versus the bots, it's light armor. It shoots fast, but it shoots low damage birdshot, as they say. And versus really tough, less units than the Terminids, aka the bots. So you have stronger units that are less tough, that are more tough, I'm sorry, that have medium armor. This gun just doesn't have much of a place in the bot side. And for that, I'm going to be putting it, honestly, after the Constitution, because you can't even snipe with it like the Constitution can. It's not a great choice. It has no stagger either, and the handling is pretty bad. I will say its one redeeming factor is you have a lot of ammo, but you're going to be basically spending one mag to destroy one Devastator, and that's not a good thing. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the Breaker. And these are Breaker variants. Yeah, the Breaker, I haven't used in a while. So going back to the Incendiary Breaker. This gun, it's honestly S tier versus the bugs, but versus the bots, I'm going to have to put this in C tier. And we're going to put it above the Liberator Concussive. But it's C tier versus the bots because it's low damage like the Spray and Pray. It does light them on fire, but you don't have much ammo. And it just doesn't do much damage. It didn't have much stagger. And just not a great choice. And it's also light armor penetrating, not medium armor penetrating. And the fire, it does burn them, but you're going to have good luck versus the troopers. I think just one or two shots versus a trooper will destroy it. But versus Devastators, which is the primary threat in level 10, you're going to have a hard time. The crossbow. The crossbow is straight to S tier. I used to use this weapon extensively when it was bad, and especially when they buffed it to where it could destroy fabricators, and I used it so much, but then they buffed its damage. I think they doubled its damage or something crazy, and ever since then it's just too easy. It solves almost every problem you have. It's an amazing utility option for destroying fabricators from a distance. You can destroy Devastators, reinforced Scout Striders, multiple troopers, aim it at a dropship, and you destroy everything in the dropship before it lands. Again, I liked it more when it was just an okay pick, but now it's just too good. If you are looking for a gun that you're going to feel powerful with in Super Helldive, this is one of those picks. The Eruptor. The Eruptor has great damage, decent range. I believe its range is 150 meters before the projectile explodes on its own. It shoots straight. It's basically a comparison to the crossbow. But it shoots way, way slower, and the handling is way, way worse. And while the crossbow is a one-handed gun, this is a two-handed gun. And overall, I would say It's not as good as the crossbow. However, I believe it's a more fun option than the crossbow, simply because it's not as good. But it's still a good choice. You could easily take down fabricators from long distances with this. It does more damage than the crossbow does. The shrapnel's pretty good, especially against the smaller units. Its main drawbacks are the fire rate and the handling. It also has a great scope, so you could snipe if you'd like to. I'm going to put this in A tier. Where should I put it in A tier? I'm actually going to put this ahead of the shotguns. And again, this is my long range engagement bias showing. Feel free to disagree with me on that. Sorry. Where did it go? Did I? I think it just disappeared. Am I crazy? Anyway, the Eruptor is an A tier. I think, oh, here it is. I don't know what happened there. Wait, did it disappear again? Oh, here it is. Oh, they put this. Oh, something happened. Sorry about that. Okay, I think I fixed it. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe a glitch, but that's okay. Moving on. The Plasma Punisher. This gun is good versus the Automatons, and it always has been. Damage and stagger are wonderful. They buffed the ammo economy, so you get 2 more rounds per magazine with it. Shoots pretty fast now. They buffed the fire rate. It's medium armor penetrating. You're going to have a good time with this weapon. It's more or less of a close to mid-range gun. You can't really go long range. It is somewhat of a shotgun. It lobs plasma rounds like little grenades. Pretty fun weapon. It's not overpowered like some of the other guns that are overpowered. The explosions can't destroy fabricators, but it is amazing versus the run-of-the-mill enemies you're going to encounter. Reinforced Scout Striders, Devastators, and Troopers. It takes care of all of those really well. And I'm going to put this in the top of A tier. If I can do it. There it goes. The Arc Blitzer. I really enjoy this gun. It's S tier versus the Terminids, but versus the Automatons, it's not an amazing choice. It does have medium armor penetration. Its main and only drawback is its range, and that is a really big drawback. Whereas the other shotguns, you can actually fire them and the projectiles travel quite a distance. This has a hard stop on its range of, I'm not sure, maybe 20 meters or less. It just simply, the lightning won't travel any further than that. And whereas you could take an enemy out with the cookout or the halt from further, the hard stop on its range is a huge concern. Now it does have infinite ammo, medium armor penetrating, no reload, so those are great, but you're going to have a hard time against enemies that, well, they will just outrange you. And I'm going to put this in B tier. And I'm going to put it in front of the Breaker. The Scythe. This is a pretty good pick. They recently buffed the laser weapons so they catch your enemies on fire. This is just a light armor penetrating laser. It has zero recoil, which is really nice. Unlimited ammo if you could manage the heat, and pretty good firing capacity. You could fire it pretty long without it overheating. It's basically a laser assault rifle. You don't even need aim down sights. You just point and shoot wherever the reticle is. You don't have to worry about recoil or anything. Great handling. I'm going to put this in A tier. It's not medium armor penetrating, but the fact that it's so easy to use and so easy to hit a Devastator head and hit those weak spots, it's going to go in A tier. And I'm going to put it above the Tenderizer. The sickle. I think this gun is good versus the Automatons for many of the same reasons that the scythe is good. It has very little recoil, it has high damage. The main issue with the laser weapons themselves is the charge time. But against the Automatons, it's not as big of a deal. Now, I will say, versus the Terminids, in a future video, I will go into this, the efficacy of this gun versus the Terminids, and it's going to be a hot topic. But for the Automatons, this is a pretty solid choice. And I'm going to put this in A tier. I'm going to put it actually above the scythe. It's not medium armor penetrating, but the fact that the recoil is so low and has infinite ammo, it's good if you just spam the heads of the Devastators. You're going to do okay with it. The Scorcher. The Scorcher against the Automatons, honestly, against anything, you can't go wrong. Even they recently buffed it to where it fires faster and it's fully automatic, and this gun is just busted. It does basically everything you want. It's medium armor penetrating. In fact, I'm putting it above the crossbow. It's medium armor penetrating. Its DPS is absolutely off the charts. Fully automatic. Its only drawback is that you will run out of ammo pretty quickly. And that's it. Other than that, this gun is absolutely insane. If you want to feel powerful in Super Helldive, choose this gun. And the same with the next gun, the Purifier. The Purifier is a rags to riches story. It went from the worst gun in the game by a huge margin to the best gun in the game by a huge margin. It's even better than the Scorcher. I'm not sure if this is a bug, but basically if you hold for any length of time, it does a crap ton of damage. You could take out, I believe you could take out tanks and cannon turrets of this thing. It's so good. The ammo economy is actually better than the Scorcher simply because you'll be doing more damage per shot. It's an insane gun. Probably the best gun in the game by far. If you want to feel powerful in Super Helldive, take this gun and witness the destruction. Ammo economy still isn't amazing, but if you're charging all of your shots, you're going to do great. The Torture. Oh man, if you are a masochist and you want to get up close and personal to the bots and burn them, you are, for one, brave, two, insane. This is a flamethrower, obviously short range, You can make this gun work. However, it's really not a good choice. Um, I'm gonna put it in F tier. In fact, I'm gonna put it, but I'll put it above the spray and pray, and I think you'll even do better with the Constitution than with the torture. And lastly, for the primaries, we have the Dominator, the Jar 5 Dominator. This is a good gun. Um, it has great damage, great range. It has decent ammo economy if you make your shots count. It has drawbacks, mainly its handling. It is a truck. So if you like this gun and you want to use it, I would recommend choosing armor with the peak physique passive that comes in the Viper Commandos Warbot. This is a really fun gun to use. The projectile speed is actually pretty slow as well. So for longer range shots, for enemies that are moving at range, you're going to want to lead them a little bit. And there's some learning curve to this gun, but it does do good damage. It is medium armor penetrating, and this gun is just a good time. And I'm going to put this in A tier, but it's going to be low A tier. I actually prefer the tenderizer over it. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much. I will actually go into the secondaries and the grenades at a later date. But considering there's so few of them, it really wouldn't make for a very good ASMR video because it'll just be too short. But yeah, any comments, suggestions, maybe you're angry at me about something, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, even if you say you hate me. Maybe I wouldn't like that. Regardless, I hope you have a wonderful day. Or, if you're going to sleep, I hope you're asleep already. Remember, you're beautiful, and you're worth it. Good night.